Oh, this is a difficult topic. For some people, this is the end of the hobby as a whole. For others, the perfect way in. I'm sure there will be disagreement, but probably not intense debate. Comments will be something like, I like this. Reply 2, I don't like this. Reply 1, noted. Games Workshop is going to release pre-painted terrain. The terrain matches the layout of the 2026-2027 mission deck, so we may expect more terrain a year from now, along with the new mission deck. I expected there to be terrain, I didn't expect it to be pre-painted. And it's plastic rather than card or MDF. The reveal trailer, which is in itself in response to leaks, could be summed up as, what if I purchased pre-painted terrain and disguised it as my own? Oh, delightfully devilish. But they didn't go all the way, when they could have. How is it that the terrain comes pre-painted? Magic and evil is my first guess. Or they have very small paint nozzles from a machine spray very close to the terrain. It moves along the conveyor belt, and another spray does the highlights. Terrain is one thing. Most people do not like painting terrain, and they do it with a spray can as quickly as possible and call it done. I can see the appeal of having pre-painted terrain, even as I have enough terrain for 4 or 5 tables, and I do not want more. I see the appeal. I wish some of this was in the launch box. The price tag attached to a table worth of pre-painted terrain may crush even the greatest interest. It cost this guy both arms and legs. But what if this was the thin end of the wedge? What if Games Workshop did pre-painted models? So we'll look at the arguments for why that's good and the arguments for why it's bad. Pre-painted models are not new, not remotely. In the late 90s, Havoc was doing pre-painted models. They were miles ahead on this. The company and game system failed because it had trouble selling through Argos, and the trouble was that all the models had the same product code, so it became a blind buy for what you got. Very hard to make an army. But there was very simple colors on these models, and it became easy to tell what was part of the 2 main factions. Blue and green on one side, red and purple on the other. Having painted models gets young and new players interested without having a barrier of, oh, I'm meant to paint all my models before I play. 10 victory points for having a painted army? It's encouraged in the rules that you have a painted army. An army in the box could be ready as soon as you build it. Your army is done in an afternoon. Having a force pre-painted helps people with disabilities. If your hands don't work well, if you haven't got the fine detail in motor function. This lets you have a painted army that's going to be the same quality as everyone else with the same painted army, and it doesn't take a lot of effort or pain. It's especially good if you don't care that much about an army. Like, say you got the Armageddon starter set, say everything in there was pre-painted. If you don't care about the Space Marines, you don't have piles of grey plastic sitting there. In a few hours you could build them, and then you have a fully painted second army. I love my own painted sisters and Genestealer cultists, but getting a new model I like for another army I care less about and it comes pre-painted? That's more tempting. For the meta chasers who buy an army, play it on the tabletop, really don't care about anything else except winning, at least they will now have a decently painted army instead of 3 basic but very bad colours. It raises the bar for the lowest level of quality. And if you wanted to paint your own models, you can do that. You could strip off the paint that's already there, if the model was bare plastic and a machine had painted over it. If it is coloured plastic, you can spray over it if you want. People have done that with the Joy Toys. All the Space Marines are blue, all of the sisters are Our Martyred Lady. But people have repainted them in their own choice of colours. If you want the models not as a gaming piece, but as a fun display piece, because the models are rather nice, it's done. I recently got a gift of Tomoe Mami from Madoka Magica from Japan. It wasn't from Paul. Once I'd reconnected the head, there was nothing to paint. It's done. I don't usually do gifts. I do money directly into my Ko-fi account. The link is in the description, along with many places that sell discounted 40k compared to Games Workshop. And you're gonna need it if you're buying the terrain set when it comes out. and there's an extra discount code if you are buying brushes and paints from my affiliate with Golden Maple. I don't think I would mind too much if the Battle Sisters came with black armor and red robes, but I paint over the black armor to have my own sisters' colors of white and red. More and more, the models are coming with heavy detail, the most basic of models. They're very busy. They've got character levels of pouches and straps and scrolls and extra weapons and grenades. Those bits are already done. You can paint the core of the model, like the armor, like the faces, and redo them how you want to, but all of the peripheral stuff, that's already completed for you. Now the arguments against it. Some of which I've read, some of which I've added. You're probably going to have the factions in one distinct style. Like, all of the Space Marines will be Ultramarines. Everything is blue color. The basic color of the faction becomes the norm to see. Ah, another High Leviathan army. It's better for Grey Knights, unless you wanted to paint them grey. But for them, for demons, for orcs, for necrons, for world eaters, you rarely see deviation from the standard colors on them. Eldar Aspect Warriors, regardless of which craft world they're from, they tend to come in one color, and that is their aspect color. But all the other troops, anything that's like, oh, which chapter have you got? It's Ultramarines. It's Ultramarines again because they come as Ultramarines. Ultramarines are the most recognized chapter. They are the one from Space Marine 2. There is a reason that outside of the launch box, Games Workshop redid the core rules cover to have an Ultramarine on it. The average person who knows very little about Space Marines sees a blue Space Marine and recognizes it as a Space Marine. It's all done and painted. Well, no, it's not a solid piece. Even the terrain we have seen will require some additional painting. You've got mold lines to clean, and you've got to paint where the sprue held the piece. These are pieces of plastic still, on a sprue. You cut them off the sprue, the place where the model connected to the sprue is now going to be blank grey. So you've got to paint that. And then Games Workshop is going to sell a whole range of paints that are exactly the same as the pre-sprayed stuff. And you've got to get that exact color from them to paint up that one little spot so that it matches the rest of the model. Otherwise, you have lots of awkward spots that don't match. And I wouldn't expect high, heavy metal level quality painting because it's done by a machine. Already people are pointing at the terrain and saying, yeah, that's not amazingly done. Having that on terrain that is the background for the game may be okay. Having it on the models, perhaps less so. It may be raising the standard of the lowest effort, but it also brings down the average standard to that level. Why bother painting it again when it's already painted? And if Games Workshop is doing pre-painted models, it won't be a re-release of everything that's in the range but pre-painted. New kits will be pre-painted. Older kits will not. That's an immediate comparison to the models you just got compared to the models you already have. There was some outcry when they changed the red used on the Blood Angels, and when they changed the yellow used by the Imperial Fists. The two colors don't seem to match together on the table. Older kits then become less desirable because you have to paint them yourself, and the 12th edition Intercessors pre-painted in ultramarine blue become the desirable product. I would say this means prices go up, but that would happen regardless. And then there'll be like a combat patrol with rare salamanders, where all the models are painted green, and that's the only way to get Infernus Marines pre-painted. In green, but that doesn't match the ultramarine blue. No, we're getting too hypothetical. But there would be a big demand for Space Marine units to be released in all the different colors. Black would cover a few of them. Just like Black Armored Sororitas would cover Ebon Chalice and Martyred Lady and Valorous Heart. The wargaming hobby has many different aspects to it. There's the stories and the lore, there's the gaming on the table, and there's the painting and the converting. Not everyone likes all of the parts equally, but if there's pre-painted models, painting becomes a less important part of the Warhammer sphere. Golden Demon will still be around, but it's bad for commission painters who do a good job and would do a better job than pre-painted models. And people with more money than time will go straight for Games Workshop instead of supporting people in the hobby who make a living from that. I do have a vested interest in having people who are connected to the hobby get money to keep going. I'll put a poll up about this on the YouTube community tab. And there, as well as in the comments, you can tell me if you like the idea of pre-painted models or think they're terrible. But have a great day of 40k.